Hey everybody, how you doing? Um, man, I had a hell of a night. That's all I can say. Um, I haven't decided if I'm going to make this a long video or split it up into three parts or whatever, but we'll see how it goes. Um, I had what I can put into no other terms other than that I had an awakening last night. And this awakening was the amalgamation of many epiphanies that I've had and hard life lessons that I've had, in particular in the last few months, and in even more particular in the last few weeks. And speaking specifically of last night, um, it was the culmination of having many really deep, insightful conversations with other men regarding women. And that's what I'm here to talk to you guys about. For those of you who subscribe to my channel, you already know how it is. You know what we talk about here, and you know that I'm not. I don't. I don't say things for shock value. I speak how I feel. So, um, essentially, what I realized is that every single woman that I had ever thought that loved me or cared about me, did not. In fact, they simply viewed me as a resource or a way to acquire resources, or at the very least, a potential mate that would get resources for her. And what does that mean? Why am I saying that? What it means is that every single interaction that you ever have with a female is transactional, meaning they don't love you, they don't give a fuck about you. They're simply testing you, and I'm going to lead into that with this statement, to see what they can get from you. So, you guys know about the shit tests. We're constantly inundated with these shit tests that they throw at us. What are these shit tests and why are they doing this? What the shit tests are is to see how you will respond and how much bullshit they can get away with before you put your foot down and just don't respond to them or don't react to what they're trying to do. Essentially, don't play their games. So what women will typically do is they're looking to see how what they're testing for is to make sure that you're emotionally unfazed. Now, this actually is a sign of strength and leadership, because think about the times of war, the leader had to remain unfazed even when there were mass casualties going around. So this does serve an evolutionary function. It just so happens, though, that you're playing their game that they made the rules for, and that you've been set up to fail. So you have to not fail. You have to not play their games. And the way you do that is deny them battle. The minute they start throwing out a shit test, you just don't comply with what they want you to do. That's all you have to do. If you show compliance, you show weakness, and you show that you're easily controlled, which will work for some women, because a lot of women, that's all they want. But you don't want women like that, and it never works out in the long run. And really, you end up just losing your self-respect and your own dignity. So the biggest weapon that they have, there's not one, but one of the big weapons they have against us is that we've been socially conditioned from the time we're very young, to want to make women happy, to want to provide for a woman. We're taught that we live in an oppressive culture that demonizes women, and that, it's a man's world. And then anything that you do that is indicative of your masculinity will be called toxic masculinity. And really, what that is doing is it's simply trying to destroy men and to shame men when they act according to what they actually are as men. So, the biggest weapon that you can use is do not ever fall emotionally attached to a woman. Now, this is very hard to do, especially when you're getting attention and adulation and other forms of, validation. But that's essentially what we have to do is not, if we are going to be victorious and step back into our power, then we have to not emotionally become attached to them, because they're doing is basically shopping for who the best man they can get. And what the best man they can get is typically who can provide the most amount of resources. So the goal is to not become a victim anymore. And the way that you don't become a victim is you have to understand the way the world works. So I realized for me, one of the biggest things that I was struggling with is that I didn't want to accept the world for how it was. I want the world to be how I want it to be. And when it doesn't add up to that, then I just don't accept things. And that's a really, really, really stupid position to be, because you're going to lose. You've got to accept reality for what it is and for what it's always been. And that every single time you ever flirt with a girl, a girl ever shows you attention, is all about resources. That's what it's always been about. That's what it always will be about. And the minute that you start thinking that this one's different, I mean, and again, there are good women out there that don't, that don't fit into the stereotype that I'm saying. Yeah, there are, but I mean, I would say over 90% of women fall into the category that I'm talking about. And that is that every single interaction with a woman is a battle to see who's going to be in control. And you never want to show all your cards. You never want to show anything to her, because the biggest mistake that you can make, that I've made, is showing too much too soon. Imagine like a fight. Like, you don't just go up and throw a haymaker at the first punch if you don't have any fighting experience, because if you do that, versus anybody with any bit of awareness is going to counter that, and you're setting yourself up to just get rocked. Women are kind of like that. It is a war to get them to fuck you. It's a battle. That's why a lot of military strategists can be, the same principles that they teach can be applied to dating. One is know your enemy. You must understand female nature. You must understand what it is that women want from you. And it is very simple. Women want a provider. They want somebody that they know will pay for things, will provide a good home for her, and will provide the necessary resources and status and stability that her children will need to thrive. She doesn't love you. Love is a socially conditioned phenomenon that we have accepted blindly because it was put into our heads as young boys that the apotheosis of life was to have this romantic, unbreakable connection with this woman. And we all bought that hook, line, and sinker. Well, not all of us, but most of us did. And it isn't until we get into our adulthood that we start to realize that we've been fooled. That's not how the real world is. These women are not your friends. If you think for a second that you have women that are your friends, they just don't respect you. They think you're a bitch, so they hang out with you and talk to you about other guys. They basically treat you like a bitch. They treat you like one of their girlfriends. And you've seen these guys, really nice, kind guys, good heart, but they can't close the deal. And what the girl's really saying is, I love you like a brother, which means I'm not fucking you and I'm not getting in a relationship with you. She has ascertained that you are not worthy of her. That's what she's saying. And you need to understand that. So what that means is that if you're in that friend zone, you run the fuck away. Don't even try to get her back. Get the fuck out as quickly as you can and maintain whatever's left of your self-esteem. I'm going to come back for part 2.